So welcome to Women in Strength, Women, Climate and Food Justice. So thanks you're all here. Thanks for coming. It was kind of a bit scary looking yesterday in terms of the weather. Not so bad today, but thanks for making your way here. Much appreciated. So my name is Anna Browne. I'm a forest owner and a flower farmer from Mullingar. Yes, a member of Talipio, and I'm on the operational group, the part of Talipio Women's Group. The Women's Group are the people responsible for making today happen. So thanks to all my fantastic women who've helped me get here, help us all get here. So Talipio is focused on, I'm going to read because I want to get this wrong, it's focused on reconnecting land, people and communities. We're concerned with food sovereignty, agroecology and local food systems. You'll hear more about that today. So this event came about as a direct result of a motion proposed by the Talipio Women's Group to the National Women's Council. The National Council has been extremely helpful in getting us to this point, and here's the motion that was passed. So building on last year's focus on local food, this year's motion examines the impact of climate change in these systems through a feminist lens, emphasising gender inequality and the role of women in farming. We asked NWC to highlight challenges posed by climate disruptions, particularly extreme weather, on local food production and seek concrete actions to ensure the resilience and sustainability of these essential systems in play. Now, sorry this is bad, but I can read fast and I can talk, but it's there anyhow. So here we are in direct response to this motion, and thanks Vanessa for getting us to this point, thanks to Emma. So this is the Year of the Woman Farmer, so perfect that we're here. And here we are in Ailbhe, celebrating Bridget, the goddess. She's right there. An goddess, a saint, an iconic Irish woman. And our women's group, Talipio, is channeling Bridget's cloak, spreading the word about agroecology throughout the land. Here we are. Okay. Some of you may be wondering why an event about farming and food is taking place in an art gallery. We're very grateful to our friends at Emma, the Irish Museum of Modern Art, for hosting us this morning. Emma understands and values its role as a catalyst for change, using art, culture and public dialogue to engage with the defining issues of our time. Hosting today's event reflects that commitment, bringing together voices from food, farming and climate justice, to create space for learning, connection and collective action beyond the gallery walls. It's powerful, I think, and I'm delighted to be here and a guest of Emma at this. So Talipio is also part of a larger European-wide organisation, ECVC, the collective voice of peasant farmers in Europe. And we use that word peasant very deliberately and not in an insulting way. Talipio represents people who produce food, fuel, fibre and flowers, but it's not confined to farmers. It's also worth mentioning that Talipio's local food policy, we're advocating for a local food sector that delivers viable incomes for food producers, delivers nutrient-dense food into communities, delivers for habitat and ecosystems, delivers resilient and sustainable communities. So we're trying to do a lot, and with your help we can do that. So we have various partners helping us make this happen. So Emma, as I mentioned, National Women's Council, Southwest Bioregioning, Feminist Communities for Climate Justice. So thanks to all the supporters getting this event underway. We give them a round of applause, will we? So I'm going to hand over to Breda now. And Breda is a very experienced MC. She's a comedian and a regenerative farm activist. She's one half of the comedy duo, the Wild Geeze. She tries to use her comedy.
Yay!
She tries to use her comedy to change hearts and minds and care for the natural world. So Breda will keep people on track. That'll be interesting. Yes. The cross. Yes. And so, Breda, over to you.
Thank you. So I joined the women's group years ago, and I love Talipio. It's very inspirational to me. I farm at home with my father. You know, when I'm in East Galway, you know, I help out in different things, but I say that in farming, like people ask for pronouns, and I go be him when I get to farm. You know, so I do like to use comedy to, you know, gently bring people who change hearts and minds. I would be a real activist with planting trees as well. And not the farmers today is the same. We all have the same vision and thread. So I suppose happy St. Bridget's Day, St. Bridget's Week at this stage, you know. And I suppose Bridget, the goddess, Bridget the same, comes from the same cloak. And, you know, once say Bridget the goddess of creativity, triple goddess, fireballs coming out of her head, and then Bridget the saint, you know, she's the patron saint of milkmaids and firefighters and blacksmiths, anyone working with fire, Because apparently there's a lore says that Bridget, when she's a baby in the crib, the whole house burnt down around her, and she was unmarked in the crib. And she may cause the fire with the fireballs. So anyway, so that's my jokes. That's it. Moving on. So a great lineup today. So I'm going to introduce. We're going to kick off with Tipperary Ailbhe herself. So Ailbhe's Brookfield farm in North Tip. I've been to your farm. She does the field exchange. She would mix a lot of farm with the arts, and so it's great. I enjoyed that quite a lot, and I enjoyed your farm. You're going to tell us more about yourself. Please welcome Ailbhe Gerrard.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here today. Thank you so much. Who's in charge of the timing? Give me a kick now. And thank you so much to Anna and everybody who's put it together, because it's many hands and many voices, and I'm thrilled to be here. Now, I said to Anna to talk about lots of aspects of farming and women farming, and she said, "Oh, Ailbhe," she said, "I need to do Ailbhe because there's fewer people who can talk to that." So that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the lovely way that we can get oats, beans, barley, and all the rest of it out of the soil. So I just want to bring you to my farm. It doesn't look like that today, but you can see it's right on Loch Derg, and the crops run fairly close to the shore, and I love the variety that you can grow on the farm. So right there it's barley right there, but we also do a couple of other things. So I'm not going to bore you all with all the other things we do. We have orchards and sheep and my dad's favourite tractor and bees and agritourism, and we run field exchange. And if anybody is around on 15th February, and it's been a theatre about women and farming, so in Smock Alley Theatre, Stephen Hurd. So give me a shout if you want any more details on that. But it is a really beautiful place to grow crops. Now, how do you grow crops? Do you grow them at this kind of scale? So this is taken in November. We just put in a winter rye crop that we imported from Denmark as a pilot organic. So that's going to sit there and grow and grow and grow. So we invited a couple of chefs to come and look at it. And we said, right, we promised we're going to have lovely rye suitable for next summer. But it's like when you're working at machinery scale, you have to bring in expensive contractors, because I've no intention of buying like €250,000 or €500,000 combine harvester. And then you're part of a much bigger system. So you can try and sell directly, but you're talking about, your grain comes out in like 15-ton grain trailers. The other scale that I also love working on is hand cutting. So I was asked to grow a special old variety of organic Irish oats for this artist who's holding the sickle, Gerrard, because she makes costumes she needs long straw and it has to be hand cut. So I don't know if you can see, all our faces are bright red, so that's back in all of us. It's really hard work, and because we don't do it very often, we're like fairly incompetent at it, but should we get there? We got there. We cut like, it was about twice the size of the room. I mean, don't laugh now, because when you're talking about field scale, it's different. And then we hand thrashed it using my very strong 16-year-old nephew to thrash away. We can pause for a second on the other thing you can do out of arable crops is you can make barley into whiskey, which we've done, a special beer for our field exchange festival with the local brewer, Morris DC, up in Canvas Brewery. Like, how cool is that? That's it. Blah blah blah. Lots of awards. If anybody wants to find out more about me, I have like little cards and stuff, and find out what we're up to. Thank you so much.
The purpose as well of all everyone talking to show their farms to inspire people to get them into farming. See, you can make beer. I mean, that's why I liked your question. And porridge too. I know, it's great. And like I said, I just want to put you the all of you as well. If you want to join, it's free for under 35 for the youth. Age you're older than 35, it's past it. So next up, we're going to be just another. Once again, Ailbhe. Close the Carlow Wexford border, but clothing, Janet Power. Janet is Rose Veg and Tree, egg roll. She's on the original OG group for Tallaght Bio. Really a great asset when she came into Tallaght Bio. So, Janet, take it away, Janet Power.
Thanks, Breda. I've only one slide, so just go around the corners there. But it does, it gives the picture of what I'm talking about. So, my name's Janet Parr. I am identify as a local food producer and also an advocate for local food systems and particularly for local food producers as well. That's why I joined Tallaght Bio. So just a little bit about, I suppose, what I do. This is Gorse Farm, and I started this about 10 years ago with my partner Jenny. And we're on the Carlow Wexford border. We're up in the uplands thankfully at the moment because we're escaping up the worst of the rain. We have a very small market garden. It's just a half an acre, and I think that's important as well because it kind of tells the story of what you can do on a very small area. That's been our exclusive income for the last 10 years since we started. Like, we would have started with some supports and that, but I do think people are drawn to the story a little bit because it does demonstrate this economic viability. And that's important in itself. Yes, we focus on the high value crops. I think that's important to say as well. We focus on high value crops so that on a small acreage that you can actually produce something and it's year round. So because we've got the tunnels, I've got the outdoor space, I've got a year round growing system. Supplying into local super values and restaurants. So why I started this work, I didn't start my career in this type of work. I lived in this area actually in Dublin for a good few years. I suppose a good kind of corporate job, and there was a bit of a pathway there. I suppose when I saw what that pathway was, and it was very comfortable and everything, but it didn't appeal to me. I suppose I wanted to do something that was more aligned with my values, and I grew up in the countryside as well. So after a long period of evaluation, decided this is the best thing I can do with my time. The world, we're facing lots of challenges. I think being involved in being a steward of the land and providing good nutritious food is something that just registered with me as something that was really valuable that I could do. But and I love it. I love this work. So that's what motivates me to keep going day on day, because I suppose it's almost like it's a project. From you start off, it's a project because you're solving problems and you're meeting challenges and you've got these ups and downs, so that itself is motivating. And also, I really believe again it's about demonstrating what you can do to show other people what is possible, that there is these roots. I didn't inherit a big farm, Jenny didn't inherit a big farm. We did end up with a field and we've really made the most of it, So I think, I just try to illustrate that a lot. But there is a lot of problems as well. It's not to say, we sometimes are presented as a little bit of this is a success story, but there's loads of problems within it. There's loads of challenges, and that's why we're all here, because we have that consciousness, that awareness. I suppose something that struck me recently was there's this campaign that Mick Kelly and GIY, he's running with this informal campaign on social media and others as well, but highlighting there's these products in supermarkets and they're labelled as Irish and they're not really Irish at all. So it's really great that one person, the power of what a person could do, just highlighting this. But it highlights a couple of things. First of all, there's regulation issues with labelling and that sort of thing, how those loopholes. But also, why are the supermarkets doing it? They're doing it because there's a demand for Irish people. The consumer wants to eat the Irish produce. So therefore, they're finding a loophole selling what's coming from Spain. But if the demand is there, then that's actually an opportunity for us. But another problem is that there just isn't enough supply in the country. We're importing. If they took all of that out, if they took all the Chinese and the Spanish and all of that fruit and veg out of the supermarkets, we'd go hungry. So we're not ready. We're not set up. But that can change. There's real opportunity there, and that comes back to Tallaght Bio. We have within Tallaght Bio, we have this local food policy framework, and there's loads of copies outside as well. Within that, there's a pathway to solutions. There's a pathway to getting local food systems that are viable, that meet the needs of community, meet the needs of the growers and the producers as well. So we just engage with that. And just one other part of a project within that we're working on at the moment is a database for local food producers. We're not counted properly, we're not counted anywhere in the country, so that's kind of some baseline work we need to do. So if anyone here is a producer or knows producers like that, would recommend that you engage with that. You can contact me or contact anyone and tell you about that, or talk to me in the break. Okay, that's me. Thanks very much.
Now we're going to the west of Ireland into Mayo. This is the real Bridget now. She works. She knows her way around another more than me. Yeah. So we got micro. Sinead Moran, I've known her for a long time now. Micro dairy. Very impressed by her herd. Even Daddy was. And it's great. Masters in climate change, agriculture, and food security. So this is the person that should be the Minister for Agriculture. So Sinead, take it away and tell us all about your dairy and
Thanks.
Sinead Moran.
Yes, I'm Sinead. I'm one part of Gleann farm. If you have a look at our social media, you will see beautiful pictures like this. And this actually is our farm. So we are a micro dairy. The micro defines our size. In this, the average size dairy farm in Ireland has 98 cows. We have 12. And we're currently, I think the fight is still between ourselves and Crawford, the other micro dairy, as to who's the biggest, and we're averaging about the 12 mark. There's only 4 micro dairies in Ireland. Of the 4 of us, only 3 of us actually sell direct, and that means we milk the cows, we process everything on site, and we sell direct to customers. It is the only way for a farm of our scale to be dairy and survive. So I come from a farming background, but my farming background was perhaps to name cows and to stand in gaps. That was it. That was pretty much my role, and I never had any interest into it. And I came around to this in a very roundabout way. But basically, I was writing my thesis on how we could reduce dairy and beef consumption, and the argument for quality over quantity in relation to sustainable diets and reducing our greenhouse gas emissions, and my other half bought 14 heifers and put them on the ground. His argument was that when he was a kid, he remembered fields of meadow, and when he said it, that didn't even register with me. I didn't even have a picture in my head of what a meadow was until we had those cows and we grazed them a particular way, and the next year the meadow came back. And it was just because it had been left fallow for years and nothing had happened. And from there I came across great research on high nature valued farmland. And they used to have on their website where you could go in and you could score your ground, and they would give you a score and it would tell you how kind of good you are in relation to high nature value. And our farm came out at 8.5 at the time. And from there, that is kind of between that and convincing my other half to appear in a YouTube video, and swore that we'd never make it public. And he went and spoke to his mum, and she told him the story of the Gleann. And the Gleann is one field where when her grandmother used to put the cow into that field in May, and all the milk in May was turned for butter, because it was known as the medicinal butter. And we actually have the old butter stamp from 1912, and that was how women made money, was generally the butter that they would make, and each farm and each woman would be known for, well, she has that butter, or she has good butter for that. So they were known for the May medicinal butter. So I am the dairy maid now, as one of the chef suppliers that we went to makes a big grand fanfare about when I walk in. He's like, here's the dairy maid. I wanted to put this up because we are, when people describe us, we're a farmer and we're a food producer. That's basically what we are. But farming it's not like any other job I've had before, because it's not a job. It is very much a way of life. And for what we do, we're all about food sovereignty, food security. We're about producing good, nutritious, dense food for our local community. But we're also about respecting the fact that the cows and the calf that arrive every year are part and parcel of that. And we have to mind them, because particularly our 12 very, very particular cows, who, if they are not minded, like to be dirty protesters. We need to keep them very nice. But that's generally how I introduce myself as a farmer, as a food producer. But like all the other women up here, there's multiple things to this job. It takes a lot to produce food and to sell direct. We are also logistics. We are our own bookkeepers. We are our administrators. We are cleaners. I wash bottles for a living. That's literally what I do, because we bottle everything in glass because we want to be really sustainable. But if people don't bring me back a clean glass, and even if they do, because of food safety, I still have to go around, wash it, run it through a cycle, and everything that's up to date with my food safety protocols. So I have a 60-page document now, because we also do other products, and each one of them needs different things. The other part of that is I'm also front of house, so I have to deal with all of our customers. I'm a host. We do lots of things on our farm because we want to try and bring in as many people as possible to open up the farm to the community so that they get as invested in what we do rather than what we produce. So we will do podcasts, we will appear on TV shows that are relevant to what we want to do. Sinéad was 3 weeks old in that bottom one for a note for nature, but we just do what we do. And we also try and then kind of link in how we farm seasonally to kind of the Celtic calendar and different feast festivals. So we always host something for the summer solstice, and we normally bring people to the farm. We do yoga in the fields, the cows watch us. We joke about the cat-cow movement. We do the sound bath in the hay shed, and then we all eat all our products afterwards. I'm obviously being selfish. There's a part of me there that's going to go, this will be my new customer, and they will buy into what we're doing, because a part of that is me showing them that this is not just a litre of milk, this is a litre of milk from Blackberry Farm. And we are doing this in a particular way, and there's loads of elements to it that I could waffle on, but I won't. Besides that, we are also, including all the other women up here, we are citizen scientists, because for us to produce nutrient-dense food, we have to know our soil. We need to know everything about it. We're also masters of our trade who never stop learning, who never stop upskilling. If we're not trying to get into different wars as Ailbhe had on hers, we have to do all these things to stay relevant, because when you hear about farming in the news, you're not hearing about us, and you're not hearing about the local small food producers. We move in a very different fringe to the sidelines movement of local food. And we do all of this so that we can produce nutrient food. But the biggest part of this as well is that we're also, some of us are mothers, we're partners, we're friends, we're carers for above and below the ground, and that includes the animal to the flowers to the grass to the very community that come and buy our food. The main point I wanted to get across is this idea of we talk about ourselves as food producers. And I'm trying to show you that there's multiple things of that, the food producer is not literally just doing food, we're doing all that other stuff as well. But for you, you're more than a consumer. You've got to imagine yourself as a food citizen. And the main reason that we can stay doing what we do is the buy-in from the community around us. We have a milk club. The commitment of that milk club is people just get their milk from us all the time when it runs from season. Our commitment is that we would continue to produce that to the highest quality. And that's all the commitment is. But there's this kind of hidden thing that works fantastically. We're at the stage now, we're in our 5th year, we're our own biggest outlet, where more people come to the farm than us having to go to the shop. That's allowed us to invite other food producers in and stock their stuff as well and open it up to other people around. But I always text, we have a WhatsApp group, and I always text our customer group at the start of the season and the middle of the season, and any time that it pops into our head, just to remind them that, they always say, thanks for this and thanks for that and that butter was lovely and the yogurt is great. Without them, this doesn't exist. So you have to remember your role and your power as well as a food citizen, and how you can shape food and support farmers like ourselves.
Brilliant. So we have, we'll go today in the west in Leitrim, we have Gypsy Gifford, and she also does things similar to the diverse, grassland into sells food directly. There's more of a lot more animals going on. So you want to talk to us more about that?
So, hello, my name is Gypsy Gifford, and I just wanted to talk to you about my sort of 2 perspectives here. So my accent will betray my allegiance to this island, and for the 2 perspectives, first is my perspective as a farmer, and the second is my perspective as a food processor. So as a farmer, at Leitrim Hill Creamery, we had goats. That was the primary thing. My mom moved here 10 years ago, got 2 goats, and started making cheese in the kitchen. And in her mind, she said, I told the department I'd be making cheese. It's not my fault they didn't follow up. And so she made cheese in the the farmhouse kitchen and established a small business called Leitrim Creamery from the kitchen. And then when we came, my partner and I, in 2021, we put more framework around it. We converted an old hay shed into a creamery, and through there we make the cheese. But we'll get to that. So we've got the goats. And then somewhere along the way, because my mother is really the farmer, I like to have these ideas, and somehow I still get her to say yes. So we also have pigs. They're there for consuming bits and bobs. They're meant to not root and to eat the pasture, and they don't follow their own instinct. But anyway, they get the whey, they get skim milk, they get the pasture, and then we can sell that product as pasture-raised meats. We also have hens, and then another, I don't know how I got this one through, but I have a Dexter cow, and I don't know if she's a cow or a heifer yet. She's maybe in calf, so she's maybe almost a cow. But anyway, she's there. She's nearly a cow. She's a little heifer. And I did that. She has horns, and I was like, I mean, she evolved to have horns. I should let her horns stay, and now I have bruises. So that's our farming. We do our best to rotate the animals. We do. I'll get to that in a minute. So, and then at Leitrim Hill Creamery, our primary products are we make raw milk goat's cheese, and we make a Jersey cow ice cream.
Which I can testify is the best
So as a farmer, I've just written here 3 words: listen, learn, and connect. And maybe this is obvious to people that have more experience at this than I do, but the listening comes in many languages, and the listening comes from using our instinct and using our intuition to listen to the soil, to watch the way the water flows, to listen to what's growing in the fields, to listen to the animals and what they're saying. And a couple of anecdotes around that. So the goats, maybe it's because they just don't like them, or maybe it's because it's important to them at that time of year, but the nettles will grow, and the nettles will grow and grow and grow and grow all year, and in October, the goats will eat them. And so in October, the goats are going into heat, and they're becoming ready to get pregnant. And so I don't know the deep history of that, but I know that every year you can watch them, and I know that you can watch and follow them. And it's something I heard from another farmer that the most profound moment he had was when he stopped leading his animals into a field and started following them into a field. And it's my favorite thing is to, when you move the animals to a new field, and then to just watch what they eat and which time of the year they eat which plants and what they're going for. And if we listen to what we're seeing and what we're hearing, then we can learn. And so we learn then to plant what these animals want to eat, right? Goats in themselves are browsers, and they want to eat willow, they want to eat ivy, they want to eat brambles. It's like a plenty, right? The pigs make their nest out of the rushes. You can look at these fields where the pigs have spent more time, and the life that comes back on these fields is remarkable. There's some fields that we have that have turned from these sort of mossy mush piles to vibrant pasture. The other thing as a farmer is to watch the cyclical connection between the animals. Every year there's sort of a new lesson to learn, if not every week or every month. But this year's biggest lesson for us was about rumen fluke. First of all, who knew? I didn't know there was you knew and you knew. You all knew about the rumen fluke, but you were keeping it secret. And this was the year apparently of the rumen fluke. And apparently the last year of the rumen fluke was 2016, and you all knew. But anyway, we didn't know. You know what else happened this year was the avian flu. And I can't prove this, but I can say that we had to lock up the hens that are normally free. And then this year, in the herd, we had more problems with rumen fluke than we've seen before. And I guarantee those animals are working together. And you can feel it. When they come with the regulations and they say the avian flu and blah, 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 and you have to lock your hens up and you put them away and you just say, it just doesn't feel right. You can feel it. You're they're going to get sick in there. And then the goats are getting sick. And then there's an instinct, and I'll get to that at the end, but there's an instinct in a language of nature that we can speak and we need to listen to. And then just for one little policy thing, because Janet speaks so much better about it than I do, but anyway, my one gripe on policy is back to what you were saying, is the access for small farmers to, if we're going to have this system that puts money and resources back for farmers to be available, the small farmer cannot continue to stay invisible. And that I was shocked to learn that there was something in the cap that's also like, I mean, the accent, like cap, I was like, what's that? The cap, that there is an option for the government to include small farmers in access to things like TAMs and acres and all these programs, and yet they're opting not to. Like there is an option to do that right thing, and they said no, continuing investment in the extractive methods of growing for export. So secondly, I'm sorry if I take too long, as a food producer, so my initial sort of foundation in life is as a farm-to-table chef. I don't like that term, but anyway, it resonated, you know, it makes sense. So, but in that, I learned always to look at the producer and their product first. I never came as a chef who said, I want to create X. It was, you have X and I can, as a vehicle, create this next thing. And so in the creamery, we treat milk the same way, so that we're bringing milk in and we're saying, what cheese does this milk want to make? The Jersey milk obviously wants to be made into ice cream. Like, what else does it want? It's just like, hey, a cream. We separate the cream on the Jersey milk, and like it's practically butter itself, you know. And so we make it into the ice cream. We make the raw milk cheese. There's a lady near us with Kerry cows, and we want to bring her on so that we can make yogurt. The sweetness in her milk is like, it's just dying to be counterbalanced with the acidity of yogurt. The key there as a producer is to put the value into the raw product, into the material, into the farmer, and into the land that they tend through that support. And I think that's all my main point there is that we can use our microcreamery to connect small-scale farmers that don't have access to a market for their product. It can come to us. And my last little bit, do I have 1 minute?
Half
a minute. So how I came to cooking in the first place, because I think it's an important and a profound story, is I was this like derelict youth, obviously. And so I was this derelict youth, and so my mother sent me to her friend to make communion in the church basement, right? So there's me, angry, 19. And the woman said we're gonna make bread, and so we're making bread, and I have this moment where I'm kneading this bread, and maybe you know, but as I'm kneading it, I felt, and I still get goosebumps today, literally the pulse of earth and the pulse of womankind, and the rhythm that we put into the earth. And so I think that collectively, the way the world is moving, I wrote it down better, but it's basically just to say that like, we carry that, we are womankind, and we carry the voice of nature. It moves through us. So.
Okay, next up we have Bridget Murphy from she's farm in Sligo. I've been to Bridget's farm, beautiful, you know, a woman, a great environmentalist, and lawyer, once worked with Nelson Mandela.
Thanks for that, Breda. Okay, the Nelson Mandela reference, I'll just quickly, no more than Gypsy, I have a peachy accent. Born in South Africa and raised through the anti-apartheid movement. So yeah, farming definitely wasn't, my introduction to farming actually was working with rural communities in Southern Africa who had lost their land to apartheid. And as a solicitor, I worked with them to get their land back. And once we started looking at returning land to people, then you start looking at questions of livelihood. How are you going to make a livelihood of land, community as a group, etc. And what was really funny was I came to Ireland to visit my parents who had moved back 4 years before that to mind 2 great uncles and 1 granda. And let me tell you, Uncle Frank died at 99 and Uncle Tommy at 98, so there's longevity on that side of the family. But the farm that Uncle Tommy farmed and that got passed on to Mum and now got passed on to me, Uncle Frank says we go back about 600 years on the farm, but in terms of tracing records, thanks to certain buildings burning and a couple of other bits and pieces, my daughter and I would be the 9th and 10th generation that I can trace on the land. But there's something quite amazing about being a link in a chain and about receiving something and knowing that you're passing it on, but that sits as an understory. Dad got cancer. I never got back to South Africa, and I was number 3 out of 5 girls. Apparently my mother walked around her pregnancy going, Colin, your son is on the way. Because she was... Yeah, I became his son. My sisters still call me Patrick. So Sinead's talking about farming in a high nature value area. I farm high nature value but up in the hills, which means that straight away the land is too sensitive for a cow to stand on. I inherited the land with a flock of sheep. They were pretty old, most of them didn't have teeth. I thought Tommy had gotten to his age, but he really was battling. And I think that speaks to an issue that I really do need to kind of raise, is labour. We really do battle on farms to get help and to you know, in the old days you would have had a bigger family, and nowadays I farm on my own. My poor daughter still looks at me and yeah, it's really not going to be where it's at. So what I wanted to speak about here was about diversification. The Department of Agriculture speaks about diversification, and usually what they mean by that is carry on doing what you're doing and just throw something extra on top of it. Maybe run a B&B on the side or whatever, but it's still carry on mainstream and just pick up a few extras. And yes, Sinead, you picked out the fact that the butter, the jam money, what were the old Irish Country, what's the ICA, the Irish Country Women's Association, the old country markets. That was where women were able to bring in an independent source of income for themselves and the family. Because often in the traditional family, the man ran the animals and the land, but the income that came off that plowed straight back into the land and the animals. Sometimes it didn't even go anywhere near the wife and the family and the kids and the school clothes and that type of stuff. So women tended to need to pull together their own budgets, and it's interesting to see that, like, now we talk about statistics and we say that women, 60-70% of diversification on farms is done by women, but it's always been done by women. Okay, but it is something interesting to pick out. One is because it was an extra income coming in. I diversified completely, as in shifting away from the sheep, because I ran into some health issues. We don't need to go into it too much, but I have a couple of grafts in my legs, and when one of them goes, I'm going to be hopping around on one leg, which meant that I had to look at future-proofing my farm, because certainly trying to shepherd sheep up on the hills is going to be incredibly difficult if we'll put it this way, in that eventuality. So I swapped over to bee seeds and agroforestry. And interestingly enough, you can actually make 3 times the amount of money annually off 6 or 7 beehives that you can off 75 sheep. So, I mean, part of that is because hill sheep all come to market at exactly the same time. So your prices are coming out at the lowest, but you're also dealing with very, very light lamb. Your heavier lamb is on the lowland, and your much lighter lamb is up on the mountain. That would carry very, very little fat on it. So when you do take it to market, your prices end up being a lot lower. I started off on the farm bringing in extra income, like the jam money, because the sheep were my mum and dad's flock, although I was farming them. So I set up a herb nursery, and it was great fun. 8,500 pots for the beginning of April, for the, what would you call it, spring planting kind of time. So I would plant the pots, I would lamb, and then I would get the pots ready for the market. And then take on anything that wasn't sold straight away and sell those at the county fairs over the year. So I started then because you start getting a surplus of stuff, doing the cut herbs, and then I went into herb soaps, herb salts, herb bubble baths, and had all of these extra products to take around to the fairs, which was great because it was about the only time I ever got off farm. The downside was I needed to expand. I needed infrastructure. I needed like a honey house for the honey. And And even though under TAMS, which is a targeted agricultural modernization scheme, there are grants, and women can get a 60% grant under TAMS for like a honey house. You have to pay first, have it inspected by the department, and claim back later. The bank will not advance credit to a woman, a single woman, parent woman on her own with a low farm income. And that was that. So the 60% grant sits there, but you either have to have bank resources behind you, or literally the person who can afford to actually put it up can get one with 60% off, but the person who really needs it can't touch it. And I do think that that's something that we do need to keep looking at. I went into the salmon production as well, and the cut herbs. And again, I ran into that same problem. I was needing labor and I was needing infrastructure, and both of those were stymied. So I converted over to the bees, and honey would be my secondary production. Because anybody who's in farming, anybody who's in farming knows that you're going to have, out of a 10-year period, you're going to have 3 good years, 3 middling years, 3 shite years, and 1 variable. Okay? No, I mean, it's where it's at. There's going to be a year that you're going to go out and think it's going to be wonderful, and it just rains non-stop, and no more than Gypsy saying you've got problems from politicals. So relying only on honey is going to be quite a tricky kind of setup. The second thing is, I tend to be very, sorry, I'll cut that. I don't like robbing the bees in the year that they make the honey. All right. I'll actually let them sit through the winter because their food is medicine as well. So they sit through the winter with what they produce, they eat off of it, and then just before the flow in the spring, I'll harvest. And it'll be it'll be quite a lot stronger because you've got a lot of problems running through it. But I do the queen rearing. And that's where, unfortunately, the department does not consider bees livestock. They're livestock for importing and exporting, but they're just not livestock for having on the ground. So I suppose the type of things I'm just wanting to pick up here is that within diversifying, we do just run into a few problems. Towns, like I say, accessing credit, accessing labor is a real big problem out in the very marginal areas. And then the last bit, as climate disruption impacts us, Storm Ishka wiped out 10 years of my genetic breeding. I lost 8 hives in that. And the storm Ailbhe dropped a huge amount of trees all over my fences and that, and I'm still battling to recover from that. So insurance. Farm insurance doesn't cover any of these things, so that's another thing to pick up. But there we go. Thank you.
Thanks, Bridget. We're moving on to Denise here now, and Denise will be a mother of Sinéad and
Oh yeah, hang on, hang Sinéad with that. I feel like I'm about to be the voice of doom here. I took my little brief very seriously about sovereignty, so I'm not telling the story. I am a farmer. I grew up in a town. My parents always farmed. My mother always grew food. We always kept our own beef. And then I went into business and came back to farming in later life. And laughed at my friends and said, what are you doing in your 50s, go back to farming? And now I think maybe they were right. So yes, I understand all the stories that the women are telling. It is a way of life, it is a vocation, it is a total different way of being, and it has a lot of joy and it has a lot of sorrow. And yes, we are the backbone. It's not the big ag, it's not the big everything. And yet we are a small cohort. And so I suppose that's why I focused on this. So I'm talking about food security versus food sovereignty. We all enjoy food security. With plenty of shops, supermarkets, loads of food options, seasonality, who cares? We can eat whatever we want any time of the year. Air miles, thousands upon thousands of them. Supply chains that crisscross the globe, trade deals, exports, imports. Don't even have to go to the shop. Click and collect, or better yet, deliver direct to your door. Shopping for food, cooking, oh sweet God, that's so last year. Ready meals, microwaves, what? Takeaway, delivered? One place, food security. What's there to worry about? what could go wrong? Food sovereignty, on the other hand, bear with me. What's the difference? Isn't it all just the same? Well, it isn't. Food sovereignty is kind of like democracy. It's of the people, by the people, for the people. It's basically self-determination in relation to food production and working with nature. It's based on being ecologically sustainable. It's mainly small to medium scale farmers and producers. They strive to grow quality, seasonal, nutrient-dense, healthy food to feed ourselves, to feed our locale, without damaging the soil, the air, and the water that we all depend on. However, that takes a lot of thought, planning, work, and effort, not just for the producer. There's probably a greater burden of all of that on the consumer, because where we live predominantly in big cities and towns, and it's convenience. We are so busy, we are so caught up in the kind of, the madness of the world, that it's just easier to go into the supermarket, it's easier to click the button. Yeah, God, I'd love to eat healthier, yes, I'd love to eat local, but it's all just too much. How well do you think we're doing here in Ireland on food sovereignty? So food, in a nutshell, food security focuses on ensuring that we all have access to food. And we do. It's everywhere. You can't escape it. You don't have to cook it, which often is a big bonus. Whereas food sovereignty is about having the control and the knowledge about production, distribution and consumption. So here in Ireland, our agricultural system is focused on exports, striving all the time for new markets across the globe. The great put down against small-scale organic farmers by big ag is, you won't feed the world with this system. I was floored. There was never an answer to that. Until I thought, but is it our job to feed the world? It isn't our job to feed the world. I have been on dairy farms where he took shop-bought milk out of the fridge and I'm going, what? His wife won't drink from the goat tank, or his kids. And I said, well, by Jesus, they wouldn't be drinking milk. It wouldn't be coming in. But that's how we're living. And so I don't think it's our job to feed the world. Are we feeding ourselves? And hell no, we most certainly are not. For as much as we export in this country, we import lots and lots and lots of food. Who needs to travel and walk down any supermarket aisle? The vegetable, fruit and everything you have is better travelled than any of us. And every corner of the globe is represented. Like you have blueberries from Peru, you have your green beans from Kenya, your garlic from China. As I said, who needs to travel? So it's all grand, isn't it? It is all there, until it isn't. 2007, you might remember, diesel prices soared to 147. Oh my God, the good old days, 147.
Yeah.
But the truckers in Britain went on strike because it was no longer financially viable for them to drive to Spain with meat and come back with fruit and veg. 5 days is all it took for the supermarket shelves in southern Spain to be empty. 5 days. And it just passed by like, oh my God, empty, and it's fine. 2010, the Atlantic volcano, whoopsie, planes suddenly are grounded. But nobody really thought about the knock-on effect of that, except Duncan Stewart, who took 3 years to bring a programme to TV, where he looked at what if all the supply chains collapsed, what if? And he calculated that what's on the supermarket shelves, what's in your press, what's in chill store. Again, you're looking at 5 to 7 days food supply. And what then? 2018, Greece from the east, Bread Mageddon, they bet the head off each other above and Dublin over a loaf of bread, and yet just literally bet the head of each other, and yet there was flour in the east and milk available to make your own bread. They took a JCB and drove into the side of a little to get food. It was a 3-day event. Like, let's get real. But can you see how something so sudden, and I mean by Central and East European standards, they were pissing themselves laughing at the panic over the small bit of snow. But how quickly the panic can set in. 2020, panic buying, loo roll. Has anyone actually thought about an alternative to loo roll? It would almost certainly. Actually, the answer is a money leaf, not the death leaf. So, then what's the panic here? These were all once-off incidents. Didn't we get over it? What's the problem? Sorry for leave. But I'm saying in a world of noise and distractions and clickbait, we find ourselves knee-deep in climate change. We feel the water is rising, but we still actually believe that we have time. Climate change is no longer a future event. It is a clear and present danger. We are right in the thick of it now. And we are refusing to believe what we're seeing. We are refusing to believe what we're experiencing. It's all about it. We're flooded, it's someone else's fault. What are you going to do to ameliorate the flood? How are we going to stop this? But what they mean is what mechanical device, what building, what dredging of rivers are you going to do, what redirecting? We're not thinking about it. It's the amount of rain falling from the sky and what the hell have we done to cause this? What we've done is we've canalised rivers. We have degraded our soil so it's no longer the sponge that it should be and go on forever. But I'm saying it's climate change is no longer a future event, it is a clear and present danger. But it is not the only, and by no means the most immediate danger. And I think for a lot of people, this has been crystallised in the last 2 years. The world is at 8 seconds to midnight on the doomsday clock. We are closer to a general European war than at any time since 1945, and we are very ill prepared. We're neutral, so you say it won't affect us. But we rely on the world to feed us right now. And in a war situation, that's going to dry up. Those supply chains are going to crash and burn. And so food security that we all enjoy, the security blanket that we snuggle under, is actually an illusion. And like any great magical trick, it can just go poof in an instant and disappear. Food sovereignty is what we must embrace, and we must come together and fight for it now, today, and every day until we achieve it. Our government needs to put as much effort, focus and money into a local food policy as they do to the export market, by supporting those farmers and growers that are already on the ground, and encouraging and educating many more to join them. Consumers, we need to wake up and make better choices. We need to bang the drums and we need you to raise your voice. We need to be able to feed ourselves all of the time, in any situation, and quickly. So I'm saying, wake up people. It's tick-tock, tick-tock, but it's not that slow. That's me.
Let's listen here to Waterford now with Siobhan Hubbard, organic farm. She's got a pork, chicken, lamb on the go, animal welfare.
I'm here today because of a big project I'm working on, so that's my main reason for being here today. But I am Siobhan Hubbard. I run just under 50 acres of a mixed farm with my partner Ross Newcombe. The reason we started farming is his cholesterol at 37 was 19.6. Yeah. He loved sausage, he loved bacon, he loved pork, he loved ham. The doctor told him to go on a diet, so he did. He went 6 months on Benecol and all of that thing. He went on medication. It didn't really do much to him, so he said, this isn't working, what do we do? So both of us had jobs. We didn't really have a farm. He came from an organic dairy farm as a young child. So he said, I want to look into where my food is coming from. We had a young child, we wanted to feed her right, so we bought a pig, we ate the pig. We've done the same again and again and again. And then we realised that our health was getting better, my health was getting better. So in 2021, we opened our farm out to the public and we started our pork and lamb business. We went organic in, I think we got our fully organic status 2 years ago. And that's when the problems happened. I couldn't get my meat processed organically. I couldn't get my meat processed, I suppose, but organically was the big thing. So I was supplying a few local bakeries at the time, and then I learned quickly that regulation wasn't on my side. I was stopped supplying a couple of bakeries because one HO said one thing, the other said another thing. So it kind of left us dead in the water on our farm, cost us a lot of money. So with that, I took 12 months career break off my job. I went for a job with the Department of Agriculture. I put myself inside the meat factory to learn all about meat regulation, meat plant design. I'm now 13 months working with the Department of Agriculture. I've done 24 courses on meat and meat plant design. I then, the Pippa Hackett Fund was I think the short food chain supply was released. I seen it and I went, wow. So I got 4 other organic farmers to sign the grant application form with me. That was in June 2024. To date, we have 168 farmers on that co-op. We're all working together to bring back Ireland's local food system. I'm concentrating on meat because there are other cohorts concentrating on grain, dairy and horticulture. So back in, I think, 3 weeks ago, we brought the 4 corners of our food together down into one room. We had 36 people in the room and we called it Really Resilient Food. And out of that, there's an evaluation being done, and it's all I can say is watch this space, we're about to hit the ground running. We are fed up of big ag, we're fed up of big pharma, we're fed up of big everything. We need small scale local producers. We need to bring back local. We've lost the connection with food. Our schools are just gone. Just mandatory. All those subjects that were mandatory are no longer mandatory. They don't need to learn about home economics anymore, which means they don't need to learn how to cook. I think it's a disgrace. So this whole project today is brilliant. Thanks, Anna, for bringing it together. Ailbhe has been a stick up my backside for the last, in a good, positive way, for the last 12 months, because everything they're doing is supporting my meat project. The bioregion in the southeast, I met Meg, Sarah Prosser and Keely O'Brien last year. They have come on board. They are my wingmen and women. Lots of other things in there as well. So how can I say this? Is my goal by the end of 2026 is to reinstate local abattoirs, to bring back local meat processing. And my accountant, who is kicking me up the backside also, sure you're not fucking making any money, Siobhan, it's my language. By the end of 2026, I believe that cohorts like this, and if we keep pushing forward and keep bringing in under small farmers who want to try, who have that little acreage. This year I've also become a mentor under Ailbhe, so I'm going out to mentor 3 other farmers who want to become small local producers. And if that's all I have to do to get more people on board, I'm more than willing to do it. And it's great to see so many women in the room today with an interest in farming. I'm in Waterford, my farm is open to anybody who wants to come down. So yeah, you're more than welcome. I'm going to stop there because I could go on for hours.
People on Ginny Lyons, Ginny Lyons. Research on sustainability impact and cultivate. You're talking a little about the research, bringing the academics to know, lead everyone. All the food don't add that.
Thank you. I just want to say what, like, I get chills standing up here with these women. It's incredibly, I feel incredibly honoured to be in this room in Biddy's week with all these incredible food producers. So thank you for including me. So I'm a cafe owner. I'm coming from the other end. I'm a cafe owner and chef and hospitality person turned researcher, and I'm working at Shared Solutions, which is a King's College Dublin geography faculty. I'm here to talk about the Cultivate project, which is led by Professor Anna Davies here at Trinity College. Sorry, we're in Ailbhe. It's a Horizon funded project with 18 consortium partners across Europe, 9 countries, and it spans academia, local government, community food sharing initiative. So, what's a food sharing initiative? Well, Newbard Farm is a food sharing initiative. Ailbhe is a food sharing initiative because we're sharing knowledge, skills, connection. So hopefully you'll see the food sharing can be part of this solution in solving this wicked knot that our food system is tangled up in, and kind of mitigate some of the food sovereignty issues that Denise spoke about. What is food sharing? So, I mean, like, it's things that we are already doing in terms of how to make it relevant for farming. Seed swaps, communal composting, seed sharing, shared harvesting. It's a mehel. I mean, the mehel is something that is long-standing in Irish culture. We've been doing it for eons. And that, I mean, to frame it, food sharing like that, I mean, food sharing is kind of, it's a little bit jargony, project jargony. but it's things that we are already doing. And it's based in systems thinking, circular food systems, local food systems, short food supply chain, cutting out those bloody middlemen. We're just having the women. No, sorry, it's okay. So we just want the short. And I suppose underpinning it also are these values and relationships that you spoke about, Janet, like beyond the commodification of food, the care for land, care for people, community, mutual aid, like commoning, skill sharing. That's food sharing is all of that. Okay, so there's 5 tools being developed. It's like an online platform to help food sharing become more embedded, I suppose. So there's the food sharing calculator, which includes which I work on, which includes a sustainability impact assessment tool for understanding the impacts that these little initiatives have, and a support for identifying the kind of costs and benefits that a farm or a community garden or a food bank will have on its community. There's the food sharing map. So this is an interactive map that's being developed of 200 plus cities to see what and how food sharing food is being shared in cities around the world, and this is going to be launching in March. Keep your eyes peeled. There's the menu of good governance. So how do we get our policymakers to make better decisions? Well, there's loads of best practice out there, so we're just sharing this kind of like menu of how to do it, right? There's and then what can we do as citizens, as food citizens? Well, we've compiled the library of citizen engagement. So there's all these activations and ways of doing things that you can just now click on and use in your facilitation or in your advocacy or activism. And then there's a community practice being developed also. So I wanted to show a few little examples from our project partners around Europe, like what they have been doing and maybe what we could best practice and the relevance to farming communities, I suppose. Like Espigoladores are gleaning organisations. They go out behind farmers and collect the beans that are ugly or wonky or whatever, and they make them into added value products from ugly fruit or vegetables or beans or whatever it is. There's Up Farming, which is based in Lisbon, and they have incredible systems of vertical farming. So they have like these they're super things for growing lettuce, but they're tall vertical farm systems. And they use them in prisons, in schools, and other settings to educate and to show that there's a different way of producing than through intensive methods. Food Cloud, who's a project partner here in Dublin, they redistribute surplus. They work with farmers in order to reduce waste from crops, and then help they're one of the groups that they work with to access fresh products. Because actually, if in a food bank situation, often it's the long shelf life food that is redistributed rather than the lettuce or the beans or the whatever you need to make a healthy plate. And then Milan Food Policy Department, so it's a local government municipal partner. They have these food hubs, and they've also started an urban farmers market coalition. So like this is what we need here in Dublin. Like where's our farmers market, our fruit and veg market? Why isn't it a food hub for sharing knowledge? So we need to. Yeah. We're on the way. Yeah, and so farmers will directly shape food policy here. What else have I to say? Yeah, so these initiatives are connecting consumers or food citizens and producers, and yeah, shortening that supply chain or redistributing it in an alternative way. and directly shaping this kind of direction that we want food policy to take, like through public procurement. And that's why it's great to see like Ailbhe or Trinity College in events like these, because they have the power for the public procurement piece. That's me. There are links. Questions come to me, and I'd like photos beside my banner if anyone wants to do that. Okay, thank you.
Last speaker, and then we can have a cup of tea. Is that right? Is Evonne Boland. Okay.
We can help to develop demand in our communities. We can help to educate local people about the difficulties that our local producers are facing. We can teach people about seasonality. We can teach people about the nutritional value of locally produced food miles, all of the issues that Denise spoke about sovereignty, how insecure we really are as a nation in terms of food. Our communities are not being told that, they're not aware of that, and they're not being shown the pathways to mobilise around that. So I guess the message from my side is to encourage people to go home and think about, not just your choices as an individual in your supermarket and where you're spending your money, but your opportunities to mobilise in your local community, to form your sustainable food community, to talk about setting up a food buying group or a community food hub, and start, driving change from the ground up in our communities. So.
Thank you. Next is the doll.